There she is, lying on the grass with a hat over her head. No one knows why.
Shocking differences between Catherine, the Princess of Wales, and Meghan Markle have just been exposed in glorious detail.
He is a younger version of his Uncle Andrew,
Oblivious.
a pompous, entitled fool who doesn't know how to treat other people.
Lots of people have asked me why I'm doing this challenge, and partly it's personal. I'm so grateful to be here, to be strong enough to walk these hills. But more importantly, it's to give something back and acknowledge really all the incredible work going on up and down this country.
While headlines were exploding over the latest Sussex security dispute, another very different story was unfolding almost completely out of sight. Reports were flying around about legal arguments, security concerns, private briefings, and emotional phone calls from a luxury resort in Portugal. Stories kept appearing, anonymous sources kept talking, and the public was once again pulled into another round of royal drama.
But I think the thing that touched me most, and I have to be honest, there was a tear to the eye, was the beautiful footage that emerged of Catherine on the trek from members of the public.
There were even claims about trips that might be cancelled, as if everyone was expected to stop everything and wait for the next update. The media machine stayed busy every single day, with fresh details and endless speculation filling the news cycle. At the exact same time, Catherine, Princess of Wales, chose a completely different path. Instead of making announcements or creating headlines before the fact, she quietly set herself an incredible physical challenge. She climbed not one mountain, not two, but all 3 peaks in the famous National 3 Peaks Challenge. Ben Nevis in Scotland, Scafell Pike in England, and Snowdon in Wales are not casual walks through the countryside. Together they cover around 23 miles across some of the toughest and most demanding terrain anywhere in the British Isles. The weather can change in moments, the climbs are steep, the ground is rough, and every mile tests both physical strength and mental determination.
Catherine, the Princess of Wales, completing one of the most amazing feats for a royal who is recovering from cancer in total privacy, because she didn't shout about this 3 Peaks mission at all.
Yet there were no media alerts, no photographers following every step, no carefully planned publicity campaign, and no countdown on social media. She completed the challenge quietly, returned home, and only then shared what she had achieved. That difference alone speaks volumes before anyone even starts comparing the two situations. On one side was a royal carrying out a demanding personal challenge with almost no public attention while it was happening. On the other side, the headlines remained focused on security requests, legal disputes, and ongoing media briefings that continued to dominate the rounds. Conversation! The contrast could hardly have been clearer.
Until she had actually achieved it, which is just Catherine all over, isn't it? And so what did Meghan do? Rather than just thinking, I'm going to let the Princess of Wales have this moment, she decided to launch a new product, send out a summer entertainment email, and show off some of her work on MasterChef Australia.
And it unfolded during the very same week, under the very same news cycle, yet the two stories felt like they belonged in completely different worlds. Now consider what Catherine actually accomplished from a physical point of view. This was not simply a pleasant weekend hike or an easy outdoor activity. Completing the National 3 Peaks Challenge is widely recognized as a serious endurance test that pushes people to their limits. It requires stamina, preparation, determination, and the ability to keep moving through difficult conditions even when the body starts asking for a break. Every climb brings its own obstacles, and finishing all 3 peaks is an achievement that many healthy, experienced hikers spend months preparing for.
But of course, actually, none of it mattered, because it paled into insignificance compared to the way that Catherine was able to prove that she is able to give something back in a way that is just so genuine.
Context becomes even more remarkable when you remember where Catherine has been over the past year. Cancer treatment is not a small hurdle that disappears the moment treatment ends. It places enormous demands on the body and can leave lasting effects that continue long afterward. Recovery often takes time, patience, and steady effort. Fatigue alone can linger for months, sometimes making even ordinary daily activities feel much harder than they once did. Regaining strength is usually a gradual process rather than something that happens overnight. Against that background, taking on such a demanding mountain challenge stands out as a significant personal milestone that naturally drew admiration once people learned about it. The physical impact of cancer treatment does not disappear the moment the final appointment is over.
I've met some incredible people, those people who are living with and beyond cancer. And I know personally how difficult that journey is.
Muscle strength can take a long time to return, energy levels often stay low for months, and even simple daily tasks can feel much harder than they once did. The effects can reach far beyond the body as well. Concentration may suffer, confidence can take a hit, and the emotional weight of everything a person has been through can stay with them long after treatment ends. These are well-documented parts of recovery, and they cannot simply be overcome by positive thinking or determination alone. Healing requires patience, discipline, steady effort, and a level of mental resilience that many people never imagine they will need until life suddenly demands it. Catherine experienced that journey herself. Instead of rushing to prove anything while people continued to speculate about her health,
And I really wanted to use this opportunity as my way of contributing to all the wonderful work that's going on. And in particular, to support the Royal Marsden Cancer Charity.
she focused on rebuilding her strength one step at a time. She trained, recovered, and gradually prepared herself for a challenge that would test both her body and her mind. When she finally took on the National Three Peaks Challenge, it was not about creating dramatic headlines or attracting cameras. It was not about answering critics or silencing online rumors. It was a deeply personal milestone that reflected months of hard work, determination, and quiet perseverance. Every step up those mountains represented progress that could not be measured by headlines or social media reactions. When she later explained why she completed the challenge, her message was clear and heartfelt. She said her goal was to give something back, raise awareness for people living with and beyond cancer, and support organisations including the Royal Marsden and Cancer Research UK. She spoke with gratitude about being strong enough to walk those hills again, and about appreciating how far she had come since her treatment.
An organisation very dear to me, but who do extraordinary work supporting those living with and beyond the disease.
And this meant so much to her that Catherine also penned a personal post on X, which finished with the very powerful words, "Please know you are not alone."
Rather than making the moment about herself, she used it to shine a light on others who are still facing difficult battles every single day. That message carried a quiet strength that resonated with many people. Then came 4 simple words that stood out because of how direct and sincere they felt. Please know you are not alone. There was no elaborate publicity campaign, no carefully staged rollout, and no dramatic build-up before those words were shared. They spoke directly to people living with cancer, recovering from treatment, or supporting loved ones through the same experience. For someone sitting in a hospital waiting room or facing an uncertain diagnosis, those few words could carry real comfort because they came from someone who had personally experienced that difficult road. Another detail from the Mountain Challenge offered a glimpse into Catherine's approach throughout the day.
Incredible to see what Catherine has done here and how she is able to, yes, she lives a very public life, but there's also an aspect of her life that is still quite private that she's able to keep, that she has the confidence of friends and families that she can share with them things that they don't share with others.
Most of the other hikers did not even recognize her as she made her way along the trails. She quietly stepped aside to let others pass, carried her own backpack, and continued the climb without drawing attention to herself. There were no grand displays, no effort to become the center of attention, and no need to turn the experience into a public spectacle. The focus remained on completing the challenge, supporting an important cause, and appreciating the journey itself. Along the trail, Catherine reportedly did something that caught people's attention for all the right reasons. When she saw other climbers having a difficult time, she offered encouragement and support without making a scene. There were no television cameras waiting to capture the moment, no photographers following her every step, and no publicity campaign built around small acts of kindness. She simply reacted the way many people hoped someone would if they were struggling on a demanding climb. There was no large entourage surrounding her, no advanced staff preparing every stop along the route, and no carefully managed environment waiting at the finish. The focus stayed on the challenge itself rather than on creating another headline.
Continued recovery, I think, is something that was helpful for her mental health, of course, as well, to remind herself of her strength despite the challenges I'm sure she had during her cancer treatments. And so it was just so exciting to see this grand achievement.
That image stood out because of how ordinary it appeared despite the extraordinary circumstances. The future Queen of England was walking the same paths as everyone else, carrying her own backpack, moving through difficult terrain, and stepping aside to let other hikers pass. Many of the people around her reportedly did not even realize who she was. She blended into the trail rather than expecting the trail to change for her. It created a picture of someone completing a demanding challenge without asking for special treatment or drawing attention to herself. That approach naturally became part of the conversation once the story was shared publicly. During the same period, media attention also remained focused on ongoing reports surrounding the Sussexes, including discussions about security arrangements, travel, accommodation, and promotional projects. News stories covered claims about security requests, planning for royal visits, and other behind-the-scenes developments that had already been circulating for some time.
Of Catherine, something of substance, and then you have the shallow vein and vapid Meghan Markle, who doesn't really accomplish anything, is contrived as heck, and desperately seems to be trying to compete without understanding that she needs to come from a place of authenticity. And Meghan has never been really authentic in her life. It's all a persona, and we all feel it, whereas Catherine is so authentic, so herself.
At roughly the same point in the news cycle, Meghan's lifestyle products and her MasterChef Australia appearance also received attention, creating two very different kinds of headlines appearing side by side. One story centered on a demanding charity challenge completed after cancer treatment, while the other focused on entertainment and commercial projects. The contrast between those headlines became impossible for many commentators to ignore. That comparison became a major talking point because both stories arrived within the same royal news cycle. Whether that overlap happened by coincidence or through scheduling decisions, it encouraged many people to compare the different kinds of public attention each event received. If the timing was simply accidental, then it meant promotional efforts entered a news environment that was already dominated by Catherine's widely praised achievement. If the timing was intentional, many observers argued that it struggled to gain the level of attention that might have been expected. Either way, discussion quickly shifted away from product launches and toward Catherine's mountain challenge and the message she shared afterward.
Or the kids are not going to go. If I don't get the best security, I get the security that William and Catherine are getting. This is what I believe Meghan was telling Harry. She was making the bar very, very high to come back to the UK because she never wanted or wants to come back to the UK. I still believe that.
For many royal watchers, the reason was straightforward. A senior royal recovering from cancer had completed the National Three Peaks Challenge to raise awareness and support charitable causes connected with cancer care. That kind of story naturally carried strong emotional weight and generated widespread interest across newspapers, television, and online platforms. It was an uplifting story tied to perseverance, recovery, and charitable work, making it one of the biggest royal stories of the week. Any unrelated promotional campaign introduced during that period faced the challenge of competing with a story that already held enormous public attention. As the week continued, coverage reflected that difference in focus. Much of the royal media conversation centered on Catherine's achievement, the physical challenge she completed, and the personal message she shared with people affected by cancer. Meanwhile, discussions about lifestyle products and television appearances received considerably less attention by comparison. In the end, many headlines returned again and again to the image of Catherine walking across rugged mountain trails, carrying her pamak.
Okay? And Harry is then making this excuse, well, you know, I just can't bring my family back because it's not secure. It's very dangerous. And I'm not going to do it unless I get the security that I deserve because it's so dangerous here in Great Britain.
Own backpack, completing a demanding challenge, and supporting causes connected to cancer recovery. That picture became one of the defining images of the week's royal coverage and remained at the center of public discussion long after the other announcements had faded from the spotlight. There is a word many commentators use to describe how that week played out, and they saw it as a major setback. Much of the public conversation ended up focusing somewhere entirely different from where some may have expected. Instead of promotional projects becoming the biggest talking point, attention overwhelmingly shifted toward Catherine's mountain challenge and the message behind it. As the news cycle unfolded, that contrast became impossible for many royal watchers to ignore, and it shaped discussion across newspapers, television, and social media for days. If this is your first time watching this channel and you enjoy detailed breakdowns that connect the bigger picture, be sure to subscribe! Turn on the notification bell so you can stay up to date as new stories develop. This community enjoys looking beyond the headlines, following the details, and comparing events as they unfold, rather than waiting until everyone else reaches the same conclusions. There is always another chapter in the royal story, and staying informed makes it much easier to understand why certain moments end up carrying far more weight than others.
Okay? I believe that is what was fueling Harry to even say that nonsense, okay? Years have passed. He's lost his case, and he's still not able to get Meghan to come. And she's like, oh, okay, see, they denied it again, Harry. H, no security, no Meghan.
Now consider what Catherine's decision to complete this challenge privately actually says about the way she approaches public life. She is one of the most photographed women anywhere in the world. Almost every public appearance she makes is recorded, examined, discussed, and analyzed within hours. Every outfit, every conversation, every expression, and every engagement quickly becomes part of a much wider public conversation. Few people understand modern media attention better than someone who has lived under that level of scrutiny for so many years. Because of that experience, she knows exactly how major events can be turned into headline-grabbing spectacles. She has the public profile, the royal platform, and the ability to attract enormous interest whenever she appears. If she had wanted the National Three Peaks Challenge to become a highly publicized event before it even began, there were countless ways that could have happened. It could have been announced well in advance, covered live throughout the journey, photographed at every summit, and promoted across multiple media platforms. Every stage of the climb could have generated fresh headlines and constant public updates. Instead, she made a very different choice. She quietly completed the challenge first and only shared the news afterward. There were no cameras waiting at each mountain peak, no carefully staged moments designed to dominate the day's headlines, and no attempt to turn every step into a media event. The achievement spoke for itself because the focus stayed on completing the challenge rather than documenting every moment along the way. That decision became part of the story just as much as the climb itself. Many royal observers viewed that approach as reflecting an understanding of the difference between quietly completing an important task and publicly building an event around it.
Great new picture with Catherine and George, and people were very taken, Brittany, because of course he's nearly as tall as his mother now. And then there was the release of this amazing footage of the pair of them together. But Brittany, it was for such a great reason that they released this over the weekend. It was to mark Armed Forces Day.
After spending around 15 years carrying out royal duties under constant public attention, Catherine has experienced firsthand how every action can be interpreted and discussed. For many people who have followed the royal family for years, the Three Peaks story resonated because it appeared genuine, understated, and focused on the purpose behind the challenge. That authenticity was what many believed gave the story its lasting impact long after the first headlines appeared. Now place these developments side by side, because many of the conversations during that week centered on exactly that comparison. While Catherine's mountain challenge was beginning to attract widespread attention after it had already been completed, reports about Prince Harry continued to focus on security arrangements, travel plans, and ongoing discussions surrounding visits to the United Kingdom. Media outlets carried claims about concerns over protection, accommodation, and the practical details involved in future trips. According to those reports, there were also stories describing emotional conversations and concerns about whether travel plans might move forward under certain circumstances. Those reports quickly became another major part of the royal news cycle and generated fresh debate across newspapers, television, and online platforms. At the same time, another very different image was emerging. Catherine had quietly completed a physically demanding charity challenge with little public attention while it was taking place. She was seen carrying her own backpack, walking difficult mountain trails, and reportedly taking the same paths as everyone else around her. There were no large public announcements before the event, no constant updates during the climb, and no carefully staged media moments waiting at every checkpoint.
And they posted, it was a powerful reminder of the courage, skill, and dedication of those who served past and present. Thanks to all of those who have served and continue to serve. And what an amazing reason, Brittany, to let the public have a little bit of a glimpse of the future king, who is slowly but surely starting to take on a little bit more of a public-facing role for the British royal family as a future king.
Only after the challenge was complete did the public learn what she had accomplished and why she had chosen to do it. That difference in approach naturally became part of the wider discussion. For many observers, those two stories created a striking contrast because they unfolded within the very same royal news cycle. On one side were continuing reports about security concerns, travel logistics, and legal issues. On the other side was a story centered on recovery, determination, charity, and personal resilience. Whether people agreed with one perspective or another, there was no denying that the headlines reflected two very different narratives appearing at exactly the same time. That coincidence encouraged comparisons across television panels, newspaper columns, and social media discussions throughout the week. Another important royal moment also drew attention during that period. A new photograph of Catherine and Prince George was released to mark Armed Forces Day. The image was simple, thoughtful, and connected to an occasion that recognized the service and dedication of members of the armed forces. Rather than being introduced through an extended promotional campaign, the photograph quietly accompanied an event of national significance. Many people saw it as another example of gradually introducing a young future king to public responsibilities in a measured and age-appropriate way, allowing important occasions to provide the context instead of placing the spotlight solely on the child himself. That gradual approach has often been discussed as part of preparing young royals for public life. Major appearances are generally connected to significant national events, charitable causes, or official duties, with participation increasing over time as children grow older and become more comfortable with those responsibilities. The emphasis is usually placed on the occasion itself rather than on creating attention for its own sake.
Yes, and I think George, Dan, is just such a critical component of the future of the monarchy. It's so great to see him out and about, and I believe he does really like, I think, model airplanes and stuff from this era, because if you remember correctly, during the World War II luncheon, he was asking a lot of questions, apparently, of the veterans about the war and the aircraft and these sorts of things. And so I think pairing that connection there is just so sweet.
During the same period, media reports also continued discussing Prince Harry's comments about security and family visits, including references to his children as part of those wider conversations. As a result, both stories remained prominent in the public conversation, but for very different reasons, highlighting two separate approaches that many royal watchers continued to compare throughout the week. The contrast many people discussed went beyond headlines and reached a broader conversation about how public roles are carried out. In one case, a young royal was introduced to public life through a quietly released Armed Forces Day photograph connected to an important national occasion. The focus remained on service, gratitude, and allowing that introduction to happen at a careful pace that suited the moment. During the same period, media coverage also continued to discuss Prince Harry's public concerns about security arrangements for visits involving his family. Although both stories involved family and children, they became part of the news for very different reasons and were viewed through very different lenses by the public. For many royal watchers, the larger issue was not simply about individual events, but about authenticity. That quality is difficult to create through publicity alone.
To see that George is getting more engaged and doing more things, because Catherine and William, understandably, given the massive spotlight on the British royals, are definitely trying to guard their children's privacy as best as possible. But it's also almost shocking because George looks very much grown up there next to his mom. And so it's just watching him grow up, and he's becoming this very much future king in waiting.
It cannot be measured by the number of interviews, documentaries, podcasts, promotional campaigns, or product launches that appear during a busy news cycle. Public relations can shape how information is presented, but genuine public trust is often built over time through consistent actions rather than carefully planned messaging. That is why moments that appear natural frequently leave the strongest impression. Authenticity is often revealed when there is little or no audience watching. It can be found in the quiet decisions people make when there are no photographers nearby, no live broadcasts, and no expectation that every action will become tomorrow's headline. Those moments are usually driven by personal purpose rather than public recognition. They reflect the reasons someone chose to take on a challenge in the first place, long before anyone else knew it was happening. Many people felt Catherine's mountain challenge reflected exactly that kind of quiet determination. Over the past 18 months, she has spoken about her recovery while gradually returning to public life at her own pace. Completing the National Three Peaks Challenge became another step in that journey. She climbed the mountains carrying her own backpack, shared the experience only after it was complete, and used the moment to encourage people facing cancer.
And so soon he'll be heading off to Eton. And so we will see George continue to grow into this role. And so hopefully we will see him more and more. But I can't wait. I thought that was a great engagement and great to see Catherine and William doing something so special together.
By reminding them, please know you are not alone. For many observers, that combination of perseverance, charity, and understated communication became the lasting message people remembered long after the week's headlines had moved on. That is the standard this week ultimately highlighted. It was not presented as a competition, it was not framed as a response to another royal story, and it did not depend on dramatic headlines or carefully planned publicity. Instead, it grew naturally from one person's actions and the impact those actions had once people learned about them. Catherine completed a demanding challenge, supported important cancer charities, and shared a message that resonated with many people facing their own difficult journeys. For many royal watchers, that achievement became one of the defining stories of the week because it spoke through actions rather than constant promotion. Moments like that often leave the strongest impression, and they naturally shape the wider conversation long after the headlines begin to fade. Now we want to hear from you. Do you think this week answered the question of who has become one of the royal family's greatest assets, or do you believe that answer was already clear long before these events unfolded? Share your thoughts in the comments below and join the discussion. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss future royal updates and in-depth analysis. Your support really helps the channel grow, and we'd love to hear your perspective. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.